All right, episode 128 today. We're going to talk about 5 ways to get listings in 2022. Let's get started right now.
Right now.
All right, episode 128. Today, we are talking about 5 ways to get listings in 2022. But before we get started, if you haven't done so already, go join our real estate Facebook group, the only real estate group worth being a part of. Request access in there. Come join us. Come share. You can make fun of things, whatever you want to do in there. Just no spamming. Yes, no one likes the spam.
Caught some spams today.
Did you?
Yes.
What was in there?
It was something about a tax class or something, which I think would have been very helpful. And
Yeah,
it's something that
just
I would,
don't spam it. Just ask.
Yeah, you want to do something like that?
Why
That'd
don't
be
you jump
super
on the
great.
show?
Yeah.
That'd be a lesson
So
to you.
Most agents don't pay their taxes. They need this help.
that is true. Our sponsorship today is Mortgage Mike, our favorite loan officer. MortgageMikeOfTexas.com. If you are needing a good good loan officer, not a real estate agent, a good loan officer, right? You need to go connect yourself with Mortgage Mike of Texas. He lends in all of the state of Texas and maybe some others here in the near future. So go check him out. Great dude. Does, amazing for all of our clients. So you want to check him out. As well as...
What noise does a stamp make?
Oh, yeah.
Drop, but I don't know if there's a stamp.
Those ones have the little plastic things that flip over. It's got the ink on the bottom.
Kind
They
of
make
a-
like the little,
kind
it's
of
like
a
a
clicking
cha-chunk
noise.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like I think back in the day it was probably cha-chunk.
So do we need to tell them that they need to ask for the Mortgage Mike stamp of approval?
100%.
Yes. So go just reach out to Mortgage Mike and ask for that stamp of approval. He'll stamp it right there on your forehead. And then our other partner, property management company, right? Homeward DFW. So if you are a landlord, you are an investor, or you're a real estate agent that is working with investors that are buying buy and holds, then recommend Homeward DFW. It is the best property management voted by all three of us here in Dallas-Fort Worth. And
Yes,
look,
official vote.
the communication is on point, because that is the number one complaint about property managers is they don't communicate. They put bad tenants in there and they just don't give a shit. This one does. She gives a shit. So go to homewarddfw.com.
Hell yeah. We've had a lot of really great success so far with Homeward Property Management. I'm very, very excited about the future of this of this partnership. Dana's been crushing it and have a lot of happy clients so far. So thank you for your referrals so far and keep sending them our way.
Yes. All right. 5 ways to get listings. I'm sure there's plenty more we can talk about, but as the housing crisis has been going on since the pandemic started in 2022, getting sellers to sell their home has been a challenge for the last going on 2 years now.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I had a Facebook memory pop up just the other day, and for some reason, I still remember 2021 is starting slowly. I had a listing in Allen, Texas, which at the time was you could still get in there for about $300,000. There might be some of those left now, but we put a listing on the market at $315, and the post reminded me that we had 91 showings and 32 offers in 3 days.
Oh my gosh!
I was just like, geez. So all of 2021 was an absolute zoo.
Yes.
When it came to that, right? And so I don't really think I'm going to have any listings this year that have 32 showings. And I'll be honest with you, I hope I don't.
Offers.
Like, that's kind of an insane amount of offers to have.
It's a lot. I mean, look, it's a lot of moving parts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a homeowner would love it, but as a real estate agent, and maybe you're a new real estate agent, you're like, man, I would love to have that on the listing. Like, trying to manage that, where you're trying to keep track of all the offers coming in, and then people not following maybe your offer guidelines, and then trying to actually keep track. Did that buyer really show up? Because a lot of what we've seen in the last 2 years is agents will tell their clients, like, look, you're not going to be able to get into this. Let's make a sight unseen offer, and then if you don't like it, we'll just terminate during our due diligence periods.
Yeah.
Right. So we then have to go backtrack to see, did this person really show up?
Yep.
Right. And it's just been an absolute pain. And I mean, here in DFW, if you've looked at the trend report lately, I mean, we're sitting on in all of Dallas and all of the North Texas real estate MLS system. It's like 0.9 months.
Yeah, it's under a month.
Under a month for everything.
Collin County is 0.5 months,
Yes.
1/2 of a month. Have you ever seen it that low?
No. So look, so this has always been a question I've had, and I'll ask it for the people who've always wanted to ask it. When they throw that number out there, is that to imply that if no houses in Collin County came on the market as of starting today, that in 2 weeks we would have no houses to sell?
That's
in Collin
essentially
County?
what the inventory is.
And that's the way I've always interpreted it,
Yeah,
right?
inventory, it's really the absorption rate.
Yeah.
Like, so I mean, back before our MLS, started calculating that, we had this absorption rate calculator that we'd scrape the MLS, and then we could then input the area, and it automatically gave us the absorption rate and saying, all right, if you price here, your house will typically sell in 32 days or less, right? And so, then the MLS changed it, so our calculator stopped working. But then they started doing this trends report every single month, and it's been a good one.
Yeah.
But I mean, from what I'm seeing is right now, as COVID is now peaking again at its highest it's ever been, and prices are going insanely higher, right? It's doing two things. It's getting homeowners that are looking to maybe retire. Well, they don't want to retire. They don't want to move into a downsize because it's going to be a lot more expensive than their current house.
Sure.
And the people that wanted to sell and maybe rent, I mean, rental prices are going insane.
Yep.
So they're just staying put, right? And of course, builders can't keep up.
Yeah.
It's amazing how lumber prices came down, but new home inventory or new home prices did not adjust at all.
Well, I mean,
right?
That's a lagging though.
It is.
So
it
you're
is.
looking at today's lumber prices, but when they're building that, they're building on last year's whatever they bought it at.
Whatever
right?
they bought. And I get that, right? And that's more just kind of, I always think that the builder game is funny. If you're in real estate, you kind of understand some of that. Builders on the, I don't know if I even want to say something like that. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk shit about builders, right? But like, you can tell when the market's really good because certain builders will just all of a sudden be like, we're not giving you anything, anybody at all. And then when the market's a little bit more soft, they're like, hey, incentives.
Yeah.
We're paying
You want to go on a cruise?
X%. Yeah. Like you can always tell what the market's doing by what builders are willing to kick out to real estate agents pretty quickly, right? I think a lot of this parlays into one of the many reasons, or one of the many ways to get more listings in 2022 is exactly what you're talking about, is just understanding the data and having the information. We talk about it all the time with agents on our team. I utilize it in my own listing appointments. DeBacker came in the other day and told us, last year home prices nationwide were up 19%. I know I've used that example a couple of times. Jeez. I also got a listing because of it the other day, right? Just having that knowledge. And I can tell you right now, that is not knowledge that Matt Kelderman was going to go out and search out on his own.
Yeah.
In all of 2022, had nobody told me, I would not have known what home prices increased in 2021 because it's just not something that I go and search, right? It's also why it's really great to have people in your life and have leverage in your business to where there are people who come along and tell you that. I've used that line talking to sellers, and it's opened up so many conversations.
Yeah,
one of the best ways to take listings in every market, especially in this market, is to understand the conversations that you're having. Sellers rightfully are maybe a little skeptical because the numbers are huge. They're also going to ask you really basic questions about where am I going to go? What am I going to do? You need to be able to answer those questions. That's the first part of taking listings at all, period, is having the data and the knowledge. Exactly.
Well, and on the messaging point, someone was telling me is like, and I'm trying to go back and find it, but I can't scroll back that far right now. But it was talking about, interest rates are still lower, but, as Michael DeBacker said, I mean, look, they're starting to see high threes, low fours.
Yep.
Right. And pretty soon we're going to start seeing, low fours, maybe mid fours, depending on how the rest of this year goes.
Yep. Right.
So the question is sell high and then buy high because money is cheap. But as rates continue to go up, right, what's going to happen is what I think is going to happen the rest of the year is that you start to lose that buyer that was already on life support,
Sure.
right? They're like, hey, I'm first time home buyer. I have a little bit of cash. Parents are willing to help a little bit, but they're on the cusp, right? 300,000 max. And those are the life support buyers.
Yes.
As those rates start creeping into 4, they're going to go away. You're pulling the plug.
Yep.
They flatline, right? Then it keeps going up, and now it starts creeping up into that middle ground buyer that They were 325, 350. Now, because rates are higher, now they're at 300. And so, as what I think will probably happen, and I have a good feeling on this, as long as the rates continue to increase, with agents pricing homes the way they are, you're going to start to see some price reductions happening.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to see some homes taking a little bit longer on the market, maybe hitting in the 20 to 30 day range, before price reductions start happening. Then inventory levels creeping up a little bit. Right. So we still probably have an 18-month run before we really get out of this. And even then, it's still going to be ultra competitive.
I agree 100%. One, I think you're spot on. Like, obviously, we can't really predict the future as far as timelines and things like that, but that is, I believe, the way that this is going to play out. It's all hinges on rate hikes, right? And then I think that when we talk about having those conversations, I do want to dive into that a little bit, because you guys both mentioned it, and it's amazing how all of our three of our minds kind of work together or work in the same way on those things. What people don't take enough into account when they're talking about being able to take listings is just your ability to understand the interworkings of the market and how it actually correlates to the actual person's experience who is the seller or the buyer, right? Meaning, like, we always talk about things, and I do want to dive in later to finding more inventory and things like that and making it more convenient for sellers who are looking to buy. But the reality is, at its most basic core, if you don't understand the conversation that is, interest rates are so much more important than sales prices, and how to have a conversation around, look, if you've been here for X amount of years, the equity that you've built is real money that you're going to get in the form of proceeds. The money that you're paying for your new home that you're going to buy is leveraged on a mortgage that you will never pay all the way to fruition. So the rate at which you are borrowing that money is so much more important than the actual sales price of that home. So if your concern is, well, I'm selling high, but I'm buying high as well, you're selling high in real dollars and cents in equity that you have. You're buying with leverage, right, against an asset that you'll never actually pay off into fruition. So if you get a lowest rate that you possibly can, you're not really buying high. You're buying an expensive asset with a low rate that is going to be low, especially if your rate. Imagine this, dude. Let's just say I'm still putting 20% down, which would be silly, but I'm putting 20% down on the home that I'm buying, and I'm buying a home that is more expensive than the one that I'm selling. Well, if I have, let's just say I've been there for 5 to 7 years. If I have 5 to 7 years of equity built up in this market, right, and I'm borrowing at a sub-4 interest rate, even at the historical national average of 5% appreciation, I'm getting 5% appreciation on the asset value as a whole, and all I'm paying is on the loan amount, which is minus my down payment. I'm probably paying a lower interest rate than my appreciation on the asset as a whole. So even though I'm buying high with my low rate, I'm still coming out in the black, and I'm getting the equity out that I've had a 5 to 7 year bull run on. Like, you couldn't ask for a better setup than that.
No, yeah, right. But no one, the emotion part doesn't think that
way,
right?
Yeah.
They just look at that high price, right, versus the monthly outlay of cash.
100%.
Right. So it's like, oh, by the way, you're buying high, but you're also selling high. So how much was your equity capture? Oh, this house that you never thought would sell for $500,000 that you bought for $200, or $250, now is selling at $500. Take that money, you parlay this into that $500,000 home, or 6 or 7, or whatever your next move up is, and your actually step up basis in terms of your monthly payment is pretty much somewhat on par with what if you were going to move up in a regular market.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head too about the emotional part of some of this, right? Some of it is, I was on Christina Smallhorn's YouTube on Sunday, and she has so many viewers, and they comment like crazy, right? They were like mad that we had small talk for like 2 minutes at the beginning. Some guy was like, "Get on with it." I'm like, "We're gonna be here for an hour, dude. Chill the fuck out." Like,
bro, you got something else to do.
I was like, tune out, whatever, right? Like, but the emotional side of this, like, and I see it on there. People want to be so sure. I've been doing that show with her for about 8 months. And there were people 8 months ago that were like, "I'm not buying in this market. It's all about to crash." Had that person bought 8 months ago, they would be sitting on like 15% of paper equity right there today, right? Like, part of this is managing the human in front of you.
Like, eventually it's going to rain.
Yeah. And here's the thing is, eventually you'll be right. But it's like saying, oh, the stock market went down. Yeah, but had you bought in 10 years ago, it would have been so up.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter.
That,
what
dude,
are you talking
that's
about?
happened for the last 2 months.
Yes.
You know, like, people have been talking, oh, the market's way down. Yeah, dude, my portfolio is not, though, because I started it when I was 16.
Yeah.
Like, what are
Yeah,
you talking
get in
about?
sooner than later. And home ownership is the same way. Now, what Nick's talking about, and the sad part of this, especially in DFW, is there are price points where you just can't find anything, right? Like, good luck. In all seriousness, good luck if you're looking for a single family home under $200,000 anywhere in the Metroplex. Like,
Sure.
it's just not happening. So, and look, that doesn't mean people can be like, oh, it looks like you just got to move somewhere else. That's not the way this works, right? Like, people don't uproot their families, their lives, their careers, and everything because housing prices don't work. What happens is those people go rent. They stay in that wheel for the rest of their life.
Yep.
Generational wealth is never built because then you train your children to do the same thing, and a whole family's legacy never gets to realize the American dream of home ownership. That sucks. Yeah. And that's a different conversation when you talk about hedge fund buyers and these massive buyers that are coming in and buying up blocks and doing the things they're doing. There's no regulation for that. You can't do anything about it. You just need to get used to it. But that does suck for those people. Like, I agree with that 100%.
But, well, actually, you talk about hedge fund buyer. I want to hear Brian's thought on this. Ooh. So before we get in, we're going to talk about the 5 here in a minute, right? Yeah. So I want to bring that up. And there's actually a lot. I just freaking pulled these. I'm like, there's a lot more than 5. But if you just execute on it. But, something that the backer, Mortgage Mike talked about is with this change, right? This law change that investors buying an investment home or second home or vacation home. Did you hear about this, Brian?
No, I was about to ask. What is this?
So, your down payment is usually 20%.
Sure.
Right? Well, now they're charging more points to saying if you want to go buy this second home or this investment home or this vacation rental, it's going to cost you minimum. We'll have to have the backer chime in on this. Yeah. But the points to not just a higher rate, but also the points on the loan is, I think he said 4 points.
Fucking what?
Yes. So I mean, that's you're rolling that's your closing costs essentially. So it increases your down payment,
doubles your closing costs.
Yes. So they're trying to.
The capitalist in me hates that, by the way. Yeah. Like, people should be allowed to make money, and unfortunately, sometimes making money comes at the forfeit of others' ability to do stuff because things become more expensive. That's where I get torn. I'm not okay with people not being able to afford home ownership because I think it's amazing and people should be able to. And I'm also not okay with thinking that somebody's come up with a business model that allows you to game the system. They should be punished for that either.
That's the thing is, it's cart and the horse because like, people should be able to. We should live in a society where the average person has the ability to afford home ownership. And do you want to know what the best wealth building tool to be able to do things like that in America is? Investing in things like real estate. So if you're charging more points for investment real estate, you're stifling people's ability to build wealth.
Yes. Well, they're doing it to try to bring some type of affordable,
I was thinking it was to curb speculation. Is that?
I mean, it curbs that. So, because the buying spree, which
that's what I was saying. Because when you talk about hedge fund buyers, institutional buyers, I was thinking that when you're talking about such razor thin margins that institutional purchasers have, 4 points extra onto their cash outlay for every single transaction actually has a huge ripple effect into their business model because they run on razor thin margins anyway. I guess the difference there is they're lining up private financing and offering all cash anyway. So it probably, the rich get richer in the end. If I'm an institutional buyer and I have private financing lined up through an investment bank or whatever, then I'm not going the traditional investment financing route. I don't have to pay those 4 points. So at the end of the day, it's the mom and pop investor that loses out again.
In almost every scenario where anything like that has been attempted to do, you're really just crushing the person who owns 3 or 4 houses, not the company who just bought Austin.
Yeah, dude, BlackRock's not getting screwed.
No, not at all. Not at all.
When does that go in effect?
I think he said now.
Fuck, man.
Okay.
Well, all right.
Well, that's lame.
That is lame.
All right.
Yep.
So getting back, he's texting with him. So in that scenario, so now that we're diving sort of into it, to come on and talk about it. Sorry, I broke the fourth wall there.
I'm sorry.
He's 8 fireballs deep at this point. Anyway. So what do we have lined up then? We identified the issue, right? Rate hikes are going to create rate hikes should push inventory higher over the course of about a year and a half, right? The obstacles to overcome are I don't want to sell high but also buy high. How do you take more listings in 2022 let's dive into that. What are the actionable steps where we actually can actually go out and take more listings?
9 fireballs. You're such an idiot.
I mean, it's becoming y'all's good lead source, and as ours expireds,
Yes.
right? What? Not today's expireds.
Was that not
2
good today?
2 to 3 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Right?
I thought you meant like this day specifically.
Yeah, not today. It's
Yeah.
like,
Today there were only 6.
because obviously there's not that many expireds on this market at this moment, but you go back 2 to 3 years, and a lot of agents may have come through it, last year, and there's but you don't have a lot just going back 2 to 3 years and pulling that information.
You don't. There's not many people in that space because, one, it costs a little bit of money, right? Like, we're very fortunate because one of the things that I didn't realize was going to be such an advantage is seasoning the types of things we have. We have expired data for a few years now because we haven't changed that, right? Like, we've got certain things. So being able, I think the barrier, like you're talking about, to a lot of agents being able to do that is the fact they don't have the resources to go find that information, right? Or the time, or like you even said earlier. What Nick slid in real quick on you guys was before he started reading these, he said, I think all of these are really great if you put work to them, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you're right. Because here's the other thing about today's expireds, though. The 2-3 year ones is actually genius. I haven't even thought about going back that far. The ones that expired today, they're getting hammered for sure. So you have to figure out a way to stand out. So this may not be for everybody. But the real thing that is happening is if there's an expired that expired today, there's probably a reason why. It was either overpriced, the location is terrible, right? Like, which at the same thing is always price. Everything kind of should be selling in this market. So if you can find a person and show them, hey, maybe your last agent really just didn't understand the implications of the fact that you were in this elementary school and not in that elementary school. If you're in Dallas, for instance, right? Those types of conversations, and they're like, oh, you have to break down that wall of what they thought their home was worth because they've adjusted their mindset to that mentally. But if you can do that, even fresh expireds are great because everything kind of should be selling.
And not necessarily, usually if they're overpriced, we like to blame the agent, but let's be real. More than likely, it's the homeowner.
I'm
right?
letting one go at $11.59 tonight.
Right.
That will not be renewed because of that exact
right.
reason.
Usually it's the homeowner, and they have to go. There's at times why I always liked in the beginning. They're like, why do you like working expires? Why not work your database? And I'm like, I like to be the second or third agent in because there's already been.
Hey, we'll be there too.
We're all going to be there.
Yep, we'll be there. Because I want to be the second or third agent in because look, they've already tested out a price.
Yeah,
that
that's
obviously
true.
For some reason it didn't work, and so I'm like, all right, let me at least look at the feedback. So the feedback was, oh, we didn't like this, we didn't like that, or price was too high, or the location.
That's the healthy middle ground that I find myself in these two different ideologies around expireds and low inventory markets.
The only reason I still have this expired is because you pestered me for the past 6 days to keep it, and I'm finally done with it.
Well, and you're right, and maybe this is the time to let it go because it's like the third time this thing is expired now, so that is a reflection of the seller. But I agree with you. In low inventory markets, there should be very few homes that expire, and maybe it says something about the ones that do. And then also, how bad does it hurt that second agent always has the easier conversation than the first?
Yes.
We're like, maybe we should drop the price. Even this guy says so. You're like, I said so 6 months ago.
It does.
You know, like
where you go back and look at it, because there's times I've been the first agent and they didn't take my advice, and even though you set the right tone at the beginning, like, oh, by the way, Brian, like, we'll try your price, but in 30 days or 14 days, if not, we'll drop. You agree to reduce price. You're like, yeah. 14 days, nope,
not doing it.
That one buyer is thinking they're circling
Still
around,
thinking about it.
And then in 31 days they come back and fire you.
It's frustrating, and I've also been at this now long enough, and anybody who is having that experience that we're discussing, that's real. And at the end of the day, if you take enough expireds and call enough expireds, you will be the agent. I sold one in Flower Mound a couple of years ago that we ended up selling for like $150,000 less. I was the 5th agent to list that property,
and he was the second or third on our team.
Now they were not on our team when they listed.
That's right. They joined us after.
But here's the thing: is they were finally beat down enough. They were realistic about selling. They ended up just kind of having to take it in the shorts a little bit, and they moved on to whatever they moved on to, right? Like, but I've benefited from that side of things, and I think that's one of the cool things about being in real estate for a long enough period of time to where you start having those experiences. You're like, man, that sucks. And I've also been the agent who's flown in there and been like, no, your last agent definitely.
Okay.
Sometimes the 5th agent though, that's where you get to be a little bit more direct with that seller. Be like, look, like you've tried it your way 4 other times for 450 days.
Get out of my way.
Like, obviously, either you love just having randoms come into your house.
Yeah.
Or
you just don't have a lot of friends. This is the only way you can get people to come over.
Yeah.
or it's time to get on board with what we can do.
Okay, so can we agree that if we're talking about taking more listings in 2022 in a low inventory market, one, the old tried and true ways do still work, and then two, I believe that you need to be able to solve problems on a deeper level, and this is where, man, do I have a thought around what real estate agents think that their job is, or think what their worth is, and then what the actual elite operators in this industry actually do. Meaning, like, there are so many agents, and for some reason, it always seems like it's the same agents that hate on like big companies like Zillow and stuff. Like, stop sending your listings to those guys, right? They're trying to put us out of business, right? But then, like, those same people that when you're like, hey, like, if you have a buyer need, why aren't you using that as an asset to go find more listings? Or if you have a seller who's afraid of X, Y, or Z, why are you not going and working your ass out to find them another deal off market where they might not be a rollover deal, but now you're isolating the conversation where it's not them against 50 other offers and they're going to have to pay exponentially more, and now the whole deal doesn't make sense. Now they're having a conversation with another homeowner about a mutually beneficial relationship in which they both have their desired outcome, and you're the medium that brought them together. Like, well, that's not really my job. I'm supposed to look on the MLS. Like, it's always those same agents, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I say that to take listings in 2022, how about you become a really good problem solver? And that's not that hard to do.
We talked about this before. The difference between, and this, I know some of this is market specific, because one of the things I was most struck by my time with Sirhan and even being in New York is like if I take a listing here in Texas, the creativity to some of the marketing that I'm putting in on just an average home in a planned subdivision is not anything different than what we would do for probably 300 of the 310 houses we sold last year, right? Where I think the high elite level operators take exactly what you're talking about. They take the conversations that we've been talking about in the data and using that. They take their ability to become a matchmaker with other people, and they can use the contract and their understanding of how to navigate it at a super high level, right? When you're having those conversations with people who are buying and selling, you're painting a picture of them. Not only that they should know, like, and trust you, right? Because you're proving them all. You're also showing them a solution to a very stressful problem. Right. And that's really what people are looking for. We talk about, like, the emotional side of how sellers are. Sellers don't really, I think for the most part, sellers don't want to be jerks even when they're overpriced. Yeah. Or they just don't understand the cost of what they're doing, because maybe there is no cost to them. Maybe it's a vacant property and it's your time and they don't really care.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you have to understand how to make them see the larger picture. What is the equity in that house doing while it's sitting there as opposed to what it could be doing? Right. All of those types of questions. That's where your mind needs to be, not talking about your fucking marketing plan and stuff like that's important if that's all you know how to do. But that should be
second.
House
isn't going to get 10 offers on the first.
Yeah. That should, like, the marketing plan is important, but what you're going to do to actually sell that home is way more important than the words on that. It's just like we talk about the business plan. The actions you're going to put around what you want to do in 2022 is way more important than the stuff you wrote down.
Sure.
This is the same thing. And I think a lot of real estate agents struggle with that part of it, because conversations with sellers were scary for me for years. I thought sellers, like, they own their house. They know more about the house than I do. How am I possibly going to get in here and have this conversation? And Brian told me one time when I was really obsessed with becoming like a niche agent in a specific area, he was like, dude, that's great. You can do that. But also understand that, like, the systems that are in place that allow Livian as a whole and DFW to sell as many houses as they do, that can allow you. I could take a listing in Montana, and those systems would still work the same. Right. And I didn't believe that until I experienced that. And I think that's where a lot of agents, it's not they don't want to, they just don't have that experience to cover that gap in their knowledge. Right.
And that's on the, you referenced Sirhan. That's on, look, most of the stuff here is very cookie cutter traditional, sure. Right? Sirhan selling, a $50 million place. There's only
might be a 150-year-old townhome or something crazy. Yeah,
right? And so there's also a lot smaller pool that they need to be attracting, and it takes a lot more effort to get in front of those people versus you've got a $350,000 new construction townhouse that's going to sell itself, right? Yeah. It's the same as the same. The real estate agent's marketing plan in this market is you just toss out the window, right? It's the same as when you're flying. You don't care about the pilot that's flying the plane until shit goes wrong.
Yes,
then you're like, oh my God, I hope this pilot has a lot of real life experience, like the engine. Oh, that engine's on fire. I hope they can land this.
Yep.
And maybe they've done a little bump of blow so that they can even themselves out.
A couple of
Every time we
screwdrivers
talk
before
about flying,
takeoff.
we figure out some way to reference Denzel Washington in this movie.
How did that become the archetypical gangster pilot? You're just like, man, I hope that if I ever get in a serious situation on a plane, that my pilot did a whole bunch of
I'm
drinking
the exact
beforehand.
opposite. I hope my pilot's not coked up, and I'm on the 4th plane that's caught on fire.
Yes.
And the other 3, he landed safely. And he knows, no, I know how that feels. That's just fine.
Yes.
I felt that before.
But that's the thing is, like, that's what we tell our clients. It's like, look, the agent at the time in this market, the agent really doesn't matter on a lot of this.
Yeah.
Right. But it's when that engine falls off, like you referenced today, when that
Sure.
that engine falls off and the pilot hasn't taken the only parachute and jumped out of the plane and said, you know what, you guys are on your own.
Here's the thing.
And a lot of agents do that.
Does the engine have to fall off, though, for you to be because here's the thing is we talked earlier about that listing I had last year with all those offers. Just navigating that
Yes.
is so valuable, right? Like I'm going to tell you right now, if you're a real estate agent and your default move in a multiple offer situation is look at the one with the most money and immediately gravitate towards that, you are not a proper fiduciary for your clients. That, like Nick talked about, people getting cold feet, just throw an offer at this place, like whatever, in a land where appraisal gap coverage has become really the giant King Arthur sword to wield type of thing, right? Like if you're just looking at sales price, you're probably missing a little bit and not understanding fully what the power, but of what your real purpose is there. But I think so many agents maybe don't do that specifically, but just don't understand that their real value comes in the repair amendment, how they talk to the other agent on the other side to help that agent go and explain to their buyers what the real reality is, right? Like how they select an offer in the first place, how they speak to a lender and know the right questions to ask, right? How they understand the points, especially in the state of Texas, where the second they go under contract, that contract becomes real freaking buyer friendly, right? Like what are all the potential spaces where the buyer can now get out of this contract? How protected are you really?
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Like agents in the state of Texas, do you know really the power of the HOA days that you put in there and what that really means to your client as a seller?
Meaningful timelines in the
It's
conversation.
unbelievable, right?
Dude, there's so many exits. There's so many
exits, and your job as an agent is to close as many of those doors as possible for your sellers, and that's not always going to come through just whatever numbnuts threw the largest price at it without evaluating the rest of the contract.
Or
right?
they probably didn't even see the house.
Yeah, and maybe they did, maybe they didn't, right? But like I'll tell you, people get in there. Somebody offers you $30,000 over asking price on a listing, and then comes back and asks for $20,000. Right? Like maybe that's needed, maybe it's not, but you need to understand exactly what just happened. Right. And I don't think a lot of agents do that.
So, so expires, go back 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
The second one,
Can you hold on, Jesse? Can you Google this in the background? Because I'll make a point later on. Can you Google like amount of homes sold in the US every year? While you're talking.
Yes. Number 2 is database. Right. And I hate that one because like you go into all those Facebook groups and they're like, hey, what kind of lead gen is the best? Like paid lead gen. And there's always those people like, don't do paid lead gen, only your database. And they're like, well, I just moved here. It doesn't matter, only your database. And I'm like,
I only know my mailman. You're like, he's your database.
Yes.
Then.
I'm just like, but I see this.
Cookies every day.
I see this and I'm like, okay, you work your database, even if you're new to the area, you go work your in any area, right? And so, but you're strategic with your messaging.
Yeah.
You're strategic with your messaging with your database, right? So what the number one thing is what we've seen when going back through database is what do people want? What would your database, if let's say, Matt, that 60% of the people that is in your database that know you are homeowners, right? Mm-hmm. What do you think they want to know right now?
The value of their home.
Yeah. Right? So most agents don't have a system for keeping track of their clients' home values.
Yes.
Right? And Brian and I talked about this. One of the things that has really helped us, the Good Home team and Livian stand out is HomeBot.
Yeah.
Right?
Dude, their engagement, as we talked about on the phone the other day, I don't know how they get so many people to engage with their emails. It's bananas. They're very good at what they do.
Yeah. And so HomeBot was a tool designed really for loan officers. It really started out in the lending world so that they could go to agents and say, hey, upload all your data here so that we could go market to your past clients so that we can go get refinance opportunities. Yep. And loan officers then open that up and say, hey, this is a great tool to stay in touch with your clients. And it's got a stickiness. Like Like mine, I add even our cold data in there.
Yeah.
And it has a 44% open rate and a 14%, I think it's 14% from an open to click-through rate. So 44 to 14.
Yeah.
And that's grown monthly. And what people are doing, they're checking out their home values. We can say, all right, Brian probably gets some messages. I don't know where those messages go to because it is a little bit of a nuanced system.
I have some filters set up. They come to me.
But then
and then it kicks out to the agent. Like I got one from the other day that a past client requested evaluation on.
Yeah.
Right?
So how is it? How should you become that expert? Well, that's great. You become the expert because it's automated in there. Like someone called me. I was talking to someone the other day, and they're like, "Hey, that email you sent me said that this zip code's cooling down."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, yeah." Maybe seasonality right now, right?
Sure.
Whatever, but it's staying in touch. And so then when they request something, you go and update their CMA, and it's like, oh, hey, Matt, I noticed that you wanted to see if your home value's gone up. Actually, it's gone up by 50,000. Like if what would be a make your move price?
Yep.
Because I don't know, Brian, if you remember, Matt, you may know this, but Zillow used to have a make me move.
I used to treat them just like FSBOs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And so
that's where you can find some real absurd prices.
Yes.
Yeah.
But those are the questions to ask today, right? There's,
Why don't they do that anymore?
That's a good question because they don't need to.
Yeah.
They everyone goes there for the zestimates.
Do you have to pay on Zillow now to list as a FSBO?
That's a good question. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I know that they make us pay for our rentals.
Okay.
Yes, they're making us pay to post rentals on there. But I know that Nate Fisher messaged me last night. He lost a listing that he talked to the guy last year. The guy said like, "Hey, I'm going to wait till my kids graduate," right? And he said, and I think the kid was going to graduate in like a year and a half. And found out, he's doing his normal touches follow. Found out that the client sold without him.
Mm-hmm.
And he was really bummed on this one. And he's like, "What kind of automations could I put in place?" And I said, "Look, dude, automations are great, but it wouldn't have identified this guy."
Yeah.
I said, when you're talking to them, the questions that you should be asking is, I'd say, "Matt, I understand you want to wait till I know that you want to wait till Luke graduates, right? But what if there was a pile of cash sitting on here right now? What does that make your move price?"
Yep.
And just notate it in the system. And then when you're doing your quarterly talks or check-ins, then you find out, and it's like if you can hit it, now you're calling. And saying, "Hey, Matt, by the way, you told me that your price was X, dude. We can get that price.
Yeah.
Like, let's go."
It's just part of being a pro, dude. Knocking that stuff, absolutely.
Yeah,
man.
because he was doing his follow-ups, but he started pushing his follow-ups out even further because you're following up with a dude who says he's a year and a half, 2 years out.
Yeah.
Right. So you go 6 months out instead of every month or every 3 months.
Well, and let's say you don't have HomeBot as an agent, or you don't sit next to one of the greatest automators who's ever lived, right? And so like one of the things that I think you can do, and one of the really high engagement, fully open emails I always used to send was, if you have somebody's email address and their home address, pass a client or not, set up a tiny little search for them that goes to them every single month, right? All you do is you just literally put a circle or a square around their city block. We're not doing zip codes. We're not talking about some huge, massive area. You're drawing a little square on the city block, and it says home sold near Main Street, whatever the name of their street is, colon. What's the 2 dots? Is that colon? Or is it?
That's a colon.
The colon? Yeah, the colon with 2 dots. And then courtesy of Matt Kelderman, right?
Yep.
Every single month, they get that. They recognize the street names. They see the houses. It doesn't, in the state of Texas, that doesn't have sold prices on there. They still have to reach out to you, but they see a home sold next to them. They see how fast it sold. If you don't think every month that's not going to get open, and the seller's never going to unsubscribe from that as long as they own that house.
Get a lot of engagement.
Right? Again, it doesn't do the thing like you're talking about. It doesn't really, what you're talking about of getting like asking them what their pile of cash number is. It allows you to automate that over time.
Yeah.
And if you do, I'm sitting here thinking right now, I actually just put a note to myself to timestamp minute 38 on this thing, because I think that was what you just said was awesome.
Sure.
It'd be a great little cutout clip for the show. But more importantly, it's something that I need to go back and do. Like, how many sellers do I have in my database that I can just have that conversation with? I don't care where else the conversation goes, and set up some sort of quarterly rhythm where I go in and check, or maybe even if it's an absurd number, I don't even need to check quarterly. I check every half a year to see if the price is in that ballpark of that number they said. And you're re-engaging that conversation, right? Even the staunch, crusty ass dude who throws out $500,000 5 years ago for his $400,000 or $300,000 house, you could probably have a conversation with that guy today. You know what I mean? If you had that conversation 5 years ago and we're actually being diligent in that. I was just telling Logan on our team, take these notes. It's awesome to know when they think their dog's birthday is, or whatever thing is important to them. Put in their notes and spend time to reach back out to them. That's really all we're talking about. The databases. They're going to tell you the things that are important to them. They're going to post the things on social media that are important to them. Their house price is important to them. Engage with them in a language they speak about things they care about. Not what you care about.
By the way, if you want, and this you could add automation to this. So like what Brian says is, to remove the human friction on this.
Humans are the worst.
Yeah. So
Nick is now 3 for 3 the last 3 weeks. He's just stumbled over the simplest of this week's was remove. We had triology 2 weeks ago. Last week was last week.
I can't remember.
Last week was something ridiculous because we referenced triology last week.
Eventually, we'll just have a good blooper reel on this.
I know.
I can't. For some reason, I can't talk all the time. Like on listing appointments, back in the day, on listing appointments, I could be on it, and then when I'm done, if I ran like 3 to 4 or 5 listing appointments a day, and I'd go home, like I couldn't talk. Like it was like I was slurring the rest.
What do you want
day.
for dinner? You're like that bird from a farm. I don't remember what it's called.
Yes. So,
chicken. Yeah, I guess whatever.
I'll have some.
But if we want to remove human friction on this, is you can send this out to your database and make it a survey, right? So make it a poll or survey. So this is something I've written down.
This is
like
dope.
On Facebook and Instagram, right? They talk about, how many times do you put up a poll or survey and people just love to chime in?
Dude, right? How many comments did we see what the final total was between Showalter and Logan the other day? Over 900 comments, and the freaking poll was, what age did you buy your first home? That post had over 900. This isn't like a famous person that posted this. This was just Logan, who's maybe he's famous in his own right. I don't only known him for a while, but it was almost 1,000 comments. It's bananas.
Dude, that guy's social media engagement's freaking bonkers.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, the polls are huge.
But dude, you send out a poll or survey real quick to your database, even to your leads if you've been in the business a while, to re-engage and saying, just a fun 2022 survey. If a pile of cash was dropped on your doorstep, what would that make your move price be now? Right. So just engage it and have that, and then you do a quick Google survey form.
Why do we have such a hesitancy to do stuff like that? It's so true. Like, it doesn't have to be. Isn't it more fun? And at the end of the day, we should be having fun with this. Our database wants to have fun interactions with us. Instead of sending out some dumb emails like, hey, in case you're thinking of buying or selling in 20, do a survey.
Yep.
If I was to show up with a black hood on and drop a bag of cash on your door and disappear into the darkness.
If I was to kick your door in.
Yeah, right.
Here's the thing.
How much money would have to be in? Like,
it goes back to what we talked about last week, man. You're training the easiest, most uncomplicated way of what we're talking about, right? Like if the people watching this, if everybody's heard all of these ideas, that's super awesome. That means everybody who watches this is a really great real estate agent. I think some of the stuff we're talking about it's hard to put action to, right? Because you get bogged down in what you talk about, what you think you're supposed to be doing, right? Like everybody thinks if they just become realtor robot, I wouldn't say everybody. It's taught that if you just become realtor robot, you say a certain type of things, then a certain outcome happens. And that's just fundamentally untrue, right? Like what we're talking about, and you just hit it on the head, right? Like you're having fun with it is a huge part, but approaching people in a different way. It's a form of pattern breaks, right? Like all of this stuff that we're talking about is a kind of a way of like engaging people on a human level. So it's like, hey, dude, I know you may not want to sell your house now. I also know a lot of real estate agents are assholes. Right? Like I'm just trying to talk to you because I'm really good at what I do, and you could make a lot of money. And if that makes sense for you right now, let's talk about that.
Super cool. Yeah. I'm glad that I hope people picked up on that, so we should harp on it more. The idea of pattern interrupts is so crucial in everything that we do to helping grow your business, from the way that you interact with your database. Like commercials are the best example of this. You guys will know exactly what I'm talking about. You guys remember it just came, it seemed like it should be a Super Bowl commercial, but it's not. It's this the commercial with the little girl and the snowman. What is that for? The little girl and the snowman. Bro, y'all don't remember the little girl and the snowman commercial? It came out a couple months ago. No. She makes the snowman and it's gonna melt, so she puts its head in the freezer. Y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. And then she preserves the snowman head in the freezer all year. And even
It's
during
like
the
a Ted
summer,
Williams situation.
it's a montage. They go to the beach for the summer, and she brings a snowman head in a cooler, and she keeps it all year
Nice.
preserved. And then they go and build a new snowman next winter. And the second they get it built, some kid rides through
It's
it
an
on his
iPhone
bike
commercial.
And yeah, it's an iPhone commercial.
Here's why I haven't seen this, because I haven't had television.
There you go. Okay.
Unless it's an ad on Netflix.
Play
I
the
don't see it.
commercial real fast. You want to know why you remember commercials? And you people at home, we'll talk and narrate during
We're gonna
what's
get a
going on
copyright
right now.
tag.
Like, no, because it's not going to stream it.
Oh,
We'll
yeah.
do it in the background. Well, don't stream it. No, then we'll super get like, bro.
That's a commercial.
If you thought we got shut down because our music was try going up against Apple, they're gonna shit down. Okay, so we're doing ads here. Hold on, wait till the ads are over. Okay, so it's very simple. Hold on, let's go back to here. There you go. It's a little girl and she has a snowman, and then this doucher kid comes and knocks him over. She doesn't want her snowman to get knocked over, so she goes and she saves him. She saves him. She takes his head and she puts his head in the freezer, Jeffrey Dahmer style, and she preserves it all year. And she's like, man,
I was just throwing out food.
forget
Her
these
parents worked
frozen
hard for
baby.
her.
I know, right? Her parents are in disbelief.
Oh, it's not just said. She sticks his
Yeah.
whole self in there. All
Yeah,
right.
that's a mad big freezer, dude. Anyway, so she preserves it all summer. He's in there, and now it's a whole montage. Every day she's checking on him, making sure he's cool.
Parents are becoming increasingly pissed about the fact that
Yeah.
they can't freeze their
And then
meats.
They had
the
to buy a
music-
second freezer.
The music is this kind of like beautiful hipster kind of like this is about feelings, and this is going to be a very wholesome commercial about relationships and all this stuff, and we're getting good vibes. Like this is going to be a very heartwarming commercial about how this girl preserved her snowman all year, and it's going to be about like relationships and preserving the people close to you, whatever, right? And she's taping the freezer shut now. She don't want anybody messing with her snowman. Freezer's off limits. It's summer. They're camping. She brought the snowman in a cooler. Doesn't say the snowman's name throughout this commercial, which I figured she would have named him at this point. And so-
iPhone 13.
yeah, she's staying up late. She's staring out the window, wondering when it's going to snow again so he can go outside. She shut down all the power to the house, trying to keep this snowman alive. And he's there. He's good.
Just
And
wait, folks. He's
eventually-
going to wrap this up.
Yeah.
He's going to bring this all back home.
Y'all are the point is gonna be made in about 60 seconds because it's snowing outside again. She's bringing him out. She preserved him all summer. The music's picking up. It's crescendoing. This is so powerful. Motherfucker just ran it over. Dude immediately runs it over in his bike.
I didn't expect that to come. Oh, it's her brother who was out there kicking over. See.
And now they're rebuilding him.
Because he saw how much it mattered
And
to
the
her.
reason you remember that commercial is not because she preserved him for a year, but because some kid ran it over the second she put it back out in the yard, and that's a pattern interrupt.
Yeah.
And the point I'm trying to make is whether it's this or a survey to your database, the pattern interrupts are what keep people's attention.
Yeah.
So the whole bit about, oh, I'm going to send to my whole database an email about your 2022 real estate plans. What are you talking about, dude? Do the funny thing about if I dropped a briefcase of money on your doorstep, what would it take you to move? Like people will have fun with that. That's a pattern interrupt. There's a reason that the Geico caveman commercials were so like memorable, I should say, is because it was a lame ass insurance company from the 1800s that was all of a sudden doing funny commercials and people remembered that stuff.
I'm sorry to tell you about this, Brian.
Pattern interrupts. What? That can't be right. No way.
Talk
Well-
about what you're talking about. This is an auditory
This is
show.
really-
We
I
don't
know.
have to
I'm not
read
doing a
this.
good job.
Oops, I just hit
I'll
something
let
here real
Kelvin
quick.
do it.
Oh, God. Yeah. Somebody said COVID makes wieners get smaller.
Yeah,
So
true.
that is a pattern interrupt. COVID
Yeah, it is.
interrupted a whole lot of people.
That's right. If you send that out with a pile of cash,
I've been
Look,
checking
I
every
did. I
day.
did this one time. I've talked on this show about a text message I used to send before Brian and I partnered, and it was after a lead had been in my database for 9 months. On the 9-month anniversary, it came in. It said it would go out and it would say, "Hey, Brian, children have been conceived and born in the amount of time I've been trying to connect with you about real estate. Are you still interested in whatever, buying or selling, like whatever they were doing?" It was awesome, right? And like I would get laughs back to it. I get people tell me to, get the hell out of here, whatever. Like it didn't matter. I don't stop. Here's the thing: is stop worrying about what they say to you. Who cares what their response to that is? That in itself, this is the old thing where your mom says, "Oh, when a door closes, a window opens." Like that whole thing. Like this is that.
Yes.
I would much rather have a clean database of people who want to work with me than look at 2,000 people that I am so unsure about what to do with them because I'm too afraid to reach out to them because I'm scared they'll yell at me. Yell at me
100%.
once so I can trash your ass and move on to somebody else, right?
That's super, super, super true. And so, one, yes, 100%. And then I would also say, so where I was trying to go with this before, Jesse, can you pull those stats up real fast again? This isn't a snowman commercial, but I think this is relevant. And you actually could stream this if you want. I just want to get a gauge, the point that I'm trying to make here. So U.S. home sales 2021. Okay, so this is a graph from the amount of homes sold in the United States from 2011 to 2021. Okay, so this is in millions. Excuse me, I'm about to burp in like 4 seconds. I'll be right back. All right, so this is what? Oh, view for free. View. What happened? We just had it a second ago. What? Okay, so while you pull up, well, it'll show, but it won't show the numbers. Okay, so let me put it to you this way. How did it show it before? That's weird. All right. While you find, if you can find another graph or something like that, like the point I'm trying to make is if you look at the amount of homes sold in the United States every single year, and then you also look at population increase in the United States every single year, and then if you were to take a third variable into consideration, which would be the amount of licensed real estate agents per capita in the United States every year, you're going to have to take my word for it because I'm not going to get a premium subscription to Statista on the fly, right? The amount of homes per real estate agent is pretty stable every single year, or per person population-wise in the United States. So back in 2011, it was like 4.5 million homes sold nationwide. We had smaller population, just over 305 million or so, and we were just coming out of the Great Recession, and we're still in the tail end of not a lot of people buying and selling homes in comparison, right? So here we go. This is kind of same deal. All right, so what am I looking at here? This is amount of homes sold? U.S. existing home sales. Okay, so it climbs every single year, and then this is in thousands, so it goes to millions. So in 2020, it was 7.1 million. In 2021, it was 6.5 million or so. And if you look at a population chart from, let's just say the last decade, 2011 to 2021, you're going to see population increase, okay, in about the same level of increase or same level of forward momentum as home sales. The point I'm trying to make is on a per capita basis, about the same amount of homes sell every single year, whether inventory is low, whether interest rates are high or low, whether sales prices and appreciation are high, whether low, about the same amount of homes in comparison to the amount of people that live in this country sell every single year. And so the point I'm trying to make around being able to take more listings in 2022 is we tend to get so wrapped up in what's going on right now in our society, in the market, all these different variables, when at the end of the day, about the same amount of homes in all environments are going to sell no matter what. The variables are going to change. When we go into a big time recession, fewer homes will sell, and there will be fewer real estate agents to sell them. It just is what it is, right? Like, it's same with a lot of these variables. On a per capita basis, about the same amount of homes per person, per capita, sell every single year. And so my actionable advice would be, if you want to take more listings in 2022, the way to do that is, what do you need to be doing? The answer is whatever it takes.
But
and
wouldn't the real breakdown be per capita of ages that could buy, right? Because you're gonna have under 18,
sure,
right? So wouldn't that be the real test, or take 20 and up, and look at, all right, the age that someone could legally buy a home and take that per capita and see is that happening, or the wealth. With wealth distribution and everything else. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
well,
because that would be a skewed number.
You're
I
opening
know.
up Pandora's
I
box,
understand
because
that,
now you're talking about.
But that would be a skewed number with population growth going up.
You also have to talk about average lifespan, though, because people are living longer too. So every time somebody turns,
actually, it's less now.
Well, but then that's also a variable. So
yeah,
let's not go COVID shit.
They went
But I'm
down.
just saying, if you're talking about one end of the spectrum, people turning 18 and becoming adults, you have to talk about when they die too.
Yes.
So now there's an infinite number of variables in between there.
Correct.
But I see what you're saying. You do have to get a little bit more homed in.
Because when you look at, I mean, you could skew any of those stats, right? When you look at per capita and everything else, but I want to look at the buying age versus how many agents are versus buying age. And then if home sales go down, you know, there's still going to be, when home sales go down, especially now that we're at an all-time high with real estate agents, there's always going to be the lagging, which is agents aren't getting out as quick as home sales would decline, because that's the trail end.
Yes.
And so, you know, but the good news is when home sales pick back up, there's less agents in. And so that's your time to pick up that market share gap.
Yeah.
Because they're not getting in until the peak. Like everyone's like, oh, it's easy to make money. Look how,
100%.
Look how much Matt's making.
Yeah.
Oh, if Matt can make that kind of money.
Yes. There's a ton of 100% if Matt can do it, right?
If Matt can do it.
No, you're right. I mean,
mean,
there are a ton of variables. To simplify, what I'm trying to say is that we continue to act like it's a harder or easier market to take listings in depending on all these different variables. And what I'm arguing is that if around the same amount of homes per capita sell every year, then people's mindset towards taking listings, it's so reflective of what everybody else thinks that at the end of the day, you should be able to take listings in any and all market environments. And I say that to say, when it comes to actionable advice, if you want to take more listings in 2022, my simple answer is, what do you need to be doing? Whatever it takes. And I know that sounds very vague, but I had a conversation with one of our lead agents yesterday, just talking about, she has a goal to take 70 listings this year. And we all know about how goal setting and real life don't always mirror each other. There's one person I'm 100% confident could easily take 70 listings in a year. And so we talk about how to do that, right? And she's, we're talking more about, and this is where people's minds tend to go. What lead sources do I need to be working on? Do I need to be pouring? What I continue to remind her of is all the other things that you want to be doing in your life right now. You want to be doing more flips. You're going to be building your portfolio, doing all these types of things, right? And we're talking about, how do I find more rental portfolio opportunities? How do I do more flips? And how do I take 70 listings a year? I said, you need to boil it down. And this might even mean, and I guess I'll get to this, you need to boil it down to, what are the things that only you can be doing? And you, as a licensed real estate agent trying to grow your business, only you can be the one out there taking listings. And so if I told you that your only goal this year was to take 70 listings and everything else would be taken care of, would you be able to go out every day and do whatever it is that you need to do without a road? Like, whether or not I said you got to do your database, we're going to farm, we're going to do, fuck all that. All that works. Everything works, right? If the mission was, I have nothing else to do but go out and take 70 listings this year, that's my sole job, would you be able to do it? And of course, the answer was yes. And so then the question becomes, what do I need to get off of my plate and leverage to be able to go out and take 70 listings this year, right? And then became a deeper conversation around, she also wants to do X amount of flips this year. She's not the best person to be doing her flips, right? It might mean that you would take less money on the flips that you do, and you need to leverage out every aspect of that process, right? You're leveraging out the opportunity finding aspect, right? Maybe by partnering with people, maybe wholesalers, maybe equity partners that you're bringing in on these deals, right? You need to be looking really, really hard for great GCs and people in trades and people that can run these projects for you, right? I'm fortunate enough to have great people in my world. The last several flips that I've done, I've never even seen them in person, right? Which is, I make less money per deal, but my velocity is much faster, right? Same with rental opportunities. How do you put mechanisms and systems in place where you're not the one pounding the pavement every day? How do you leverage every other aspect of your goals so that you're the only person doing the things that only you can do? And then the simple actionable advice becomes, you do whatever it takes to take X amount of listings in 2022.
Right.
We get so buried in, I want to do this lead gen source or set up this. The reality is, out of the 24 hours of a day that we have, we tend to spend so much time on activities that we're not always the best person to be executing on. And if we were able to boil that down into our sole focus, and if our sole focus happened to be taking more listings, we could sit here and talk about all the different mechanisms to do that, or we could sit here and talk about all the mechanisms to get everything else off our plate that other people could be doing for us. That might even mean, God forbid, passing up on some opportunities so that we can focus on the things that matter more to us, right? if your sole focus was just taking listings and everything else was handled by leverage pieces in your life, then the answer is do whatever it takes, because that's the only thing you're supposed to be doing.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Should we do, we're coming up on 60 minutes. Should we do part 2 of this next week? And we fly Matt in from Vermont.
I'm going to be live from Vermont.
Where we talk about, because right now we covered expired and database.
And polls a little bit.
And polls, yeah. So, but there's 3 more here that out of this that we could definitely work. That would be great lead sources. So we could do a continuation for next week.
I'm fine with that.
No, I'm in.
Yeah.
I like it when we have show topics sooner than 5 minutes before we actually go live. So this is great.
Now we already know what we're talking about
great.
next week.
Yeah. So next week we will do part 2 of how to take real estate listings in 2022, right? But before we end this, go and support and ask for that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval, right? So just go to mortgagemikeoftexas.com. If you need a great loan officer here in Texas, if you've got a client relocating from another state here, and because you're an agent that is maybe in California, still seeing a lot of those Californians get over here. So go support Mortgage Mike of Texas and ask for that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval, as well as our property management company that we all endorse.
Homeward Property Management.
Homeward DFW. So it's homewarddfw.com, not Homeward Property Management. DFW.
Well, the company is Homeward Property Management, but we do the website is Homeward DFW.
Homewarddfw.com. And then go join our real estate Facebook group, the only real estate group worth being a part of, so that you can just see all the cool shit that's being shared.
And make sure you tune in there tomorrow, because we will be dropping a ton of information on a new little contest that we're going to be running for the property management company. We're going to be dropping details in the Facebook group tomorrow. And we've got some pretty kick-ass prizes to give away.
We all bought something, and we want you to have one.
We want you to come play video games with us. We're very, very, very excited.
We don't know what that is. Maybe it's a PS5.
It might be a PS5. It might be a PS6.
It might be.
Yes.
That's how far ahead of everything we already are.
Exactly. So jump into the group, the only real estate group worth being a part of, and we'll drop details about our contest tomorrow.
Boys, this was a good one. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, this is super fun, man.
I know. All right. Show Walter. Take us home, buddy.
Hey, thank you for watching. We truly appreciate it. Checking out another episode of the only real estate podcast worth listening to. If you're watching this on YouTube, please go ahead, hit that share button, hit that like button, and hit the subscribe button, right? We're dropping more stuff on YouTube constantly. If you're on iTunes, leave us a review, please. We're really, really focused on building up those reviews so we can get more searchable content on there. And if you're on Facebook, like everyone else is, go over and search the only real estate group worth being a part of. You're going to want to go join that group. I'm telling you right now, there's so much gold in there. So go join, share us on YouTube, and leave us that iTunes review. Please go do it right now. We'll see you on the next show.